Hello, this is Dale Matthews. This is Inside News, and because today is Tuesday, I'm joined by Mike Jones. Hello, Mike.
Hey, Dale.
Hey. So tonight we're going to start off with the conundrum for Keith Heck. He has said very clearly to the residents of this county, very forcefully, that he absolutely, positively will not be backing any kind of property tax or sales tax, not as a commissioner, maybe personally, but not as a commissioner. He's made that abundantly clear. And then in the little back room, he decided that he's going to give Cheryl's four-pointed throwing star the good old college try. Really? But this is kind of the opposite of what he said. This kind of. Let's see just this little clip here.
I will never promote a tax, property tax, sales tax. I personally, as a commissioner, will never support that.
I'm not averse to giving it the old college try by any means.
So, Mike, I think what he means is not I will never promote a tax. He means I will sometimes promote a tax and then tell you that I'm not promoting the tax, and then in the back room make a deal to promote the tax.
I think this kind of illustrates the culture that they're living in there, because clearly, you know, what Keith said in front of the city council there is probably closer to what his true feelings were about how it's essentially political suicide to get behind another one of these tax measures. And then when he's in the back room there, I firmly believe that Cheryl Walker is the dominant influence back there, you know, because you can probably palpably feel her emotional when you walk in the room. So, and I assume that they figure if they don't acquiesce to what her demands are, that they're probably going to get the head down writing and angry, difficult to be around for the next couple of hours.
Right. And I've actually seen her be entirely quiet for nearly an hour when she didn't get her way once.
Right. And so what man wants to deal with that? None. Really. I mean, many of us have to deal with that because sometimes we do stupid things, and, you know, our wives or give us problems with that sort of thing. But generally speaking, we don't want to take that from somebody that we're not married to. And so it's easier for them to get along with her by going along. And not only that, is that this is a pervasive culture within local government anyway, is that we want more tax money to play with.
Well, now what he has to do is he has to put up with people being upset with him. I know for sure that some people have jumped all over him saying, Keith, you said you would never do this. Well, that's not what I meant. What I meant was I'm going to try the good old college try. I'm going to try to think about it. I'm going to try to think about it. Wait, now you almost could believe that Keith might have to try to think about something. It's almost credible, but that's more of a joke than anything else. When you say you're going to try something, it means you're going to try to do it, not try to think about it. Come on.
Yeah, I don't really understand why you would want to entertain this. As I've said before, I think probably the very best angle that they could have on this sort of thing is when Cheryl's in there saying, you know, here are my plans for the 4 little levies, and I'm wondering about May or November. And if I was a commissioner, my answer would be neither. And I'm not interested in it. I'm not going to follow you down that road. Now, you can either convince Simon or whoever else is sitting over there, you know, to go along with you, or I guess you're out in the cold. And you know, you're going to have to go report to Darren Fowler that you weren't able to get him what you wanted to get for him.
Apparently she's not able to convince anybody, because not even SOS wants to put up the effort to try to go out and get these signatures. That's what this is about. You see, it's not going to get on the May ballot if they leave it up to SOS. You heard Darren Fowler say at a meeting, we tried to get together with SOS after the defeat of the sales tax, and, you know, Nobody really showed up. And so what's the next step? What he means is, what's the next property tax step? What's the next step on selling something that nobody wants?
Right. And since you can't get these private organizations to spend a whole bunch of their own money pursuing what Keith Heck, what did he call it? To lead the death march, then the only thing left, if they want it, and inside local government, they want it. And the only way to get that now would be to have the commissioners put it on the ballot. And so Cheryl's trying to get that done, and it looked like she was making some headway, but as Dale pointed out, it may well be that they're watching the show and that they understand that we're looking at them and going, hey, you said this and now you're saying this, and that makes them look like an idiot, and they know that. And so then then you have the change of the story. So,
well, it only took a little over 12 hours for Keith to start getting phone calls. Apparently, his handlers, does he have handlers? Or he himself, hello, Keith, are watching the show, and we're having it's like the Sunday morning shows in Washington, D.C. All the politicians say, "Oh, did you see what they asked? The questions they asked on that Meet the Press?" Well, we're the closest that there is to this area. What is anybody else doing it? Truly, no, really, Kjo. We are the only place that's talking about them, but we do it on a daily basis. And so somebody in Keith's camp, he has a camp followers. I don't like to think about that. But anyway, there are people who are feeding back to him, hey, what about this? And I know for sure he's gotten at least 1 or 2 telephone calls from people saying, Keith, what do you think you're doing? Well, I didn't mean that. I meant 9 other things. No, he didn't.
Yeah, I don't know what sort of feedback he's experiencing, or maybe he's just thinking about this, understanding, because clearly
I know he is. I know he is, because I've been a couple of people have talked to me, said that they called him and talked to him and gave him holy heck.
Oh, okay.
And he was trying to explain it already by, well, I'm just, what's the matter with looking at it a bit? You said you wouldn't. Well, what I meant by try was I'm going to try to think about it. You're going to try to think about it.
Yeah, but I mean,
work.
Personally, to me, I wouldn't let somebody waste their time. I could say, you could talk a line till you're blue in the face. I'm not changing my mind about this. Now, feel free to convince that other guy. You've got all day long if you want to, but I'm not going along with that.
Well, therein is the problem, and this is the reason why Cheryl was hopping mad at today's little backroom meeting. She was mad. She's the chair now. And so she turns to Simon. Well, what about you? And Simon is, well, like I said, I need a little more time to think about it. More time to think about it. Yes, I would like a little more. Well, when are you going to know? And he says, Thursday. She was so mad because she wants this now. I want it now. Is
that clip in the lineup here?
No, I did what I can. Sorry, what?
Wow, that was the good clip. For crying out loud. We want controversy. We want drama.
That's right. Yes. Now, here's what we try to do. This thing over my shoulder. What we're trying to do on this show is to replace that doom and gloom in the background, a piece at a time, with suggestions. We do suggestions. Oh, where are your suggestions? You never of course we have suggestions. We have nothing but suggestions. Okay, we got ideas coming out of our monitors, and we'd like to replace this doom and gloom, everything's going to be a disaster, with a little bit of a sunnier future. Okay, and there's Mike, who's Mr. Sunshine himself, and we will do everything that we can for that. So here's a clip of Cheryl explaining to everybody why the SRS payments, hey, everybody knows we're not going to get any more. What's the matter with you? Don't you realize we're not going to get any more SRS payments? Go ahead, Cheryl.
Of course, all of us sitting here know that to anticipate any further securable schools is folly at this point, because no one's in Congress is working on it. If they're not working on it, it's not going to happen. So anyway, that is the proposal, and I would like to know if that's something that you want pursued or not for the May ballot.
Yeah, I could have sworn that, I mean, this is the mantra, of course, that that there isn't any more SRS coming, and that if they're not talking about it in Congress, I don't know why they would be talking about it at this point, but if they're not talking about it in Congress, then it's not going to happen.
They say this every year. It's almost, because I sit in on these, and I don't know, I have this ability to remember what they've said. They say this every year. I don't need to look at videotape to remember what they said. Every single year they say the same thing. Well, this time it's really over. Well, no, it's not. And so, but they have to say that, or you're not going to vote for a levy.
Well, the earliest that they would be talking about it would be, say, in like probably May or June. That's about when it came around last year, and they retroactively funded 1 year and then went forward 1 year.
Except
so
this time,
that has
not this time, because they extended it for 2 years. So no wonder nobody's talking about it, because Congress doesn't like to talk about stuff that gives them pain until everybody knows the last possible moment is when they're going to do this. And nobody's talking about it now. Everybody's talking about it now. Well, that's right, Mr. Hare. Nobody's talking about it now. And you know very well why nobody's talking about it now, because they extended it for 2 years.
Yeah, so it's not likely that we'll be hearing about them talking about it anytime soon. But it's a good fear club to beat people with.
Except now, my favorite thing to do and all the stuff that we do on this comedy show is to put this clip up against that clip where they're arguing with themselves. So here's a montage. Here's Simon Hare saying, well, as you know, SRS is over. And then Senator Merkley saying, well, as you know, we're working on this on a year-by-year basis. And then Simon Hare saying, yep, it's definitely all over. And then the senator saying, you know, it's going to be a tough fight, but we're still working on it. Here is a montage. It's highly edited. Go ahead, Mike.
There is no fundamental way with the expiration of secure rural schools we'll get our last payment this spring. I wrote this up for the presentation to state of the county for people to, in the subsequent legislation that's led to this. So secure rural schools has expired as of October 1st, 2015.
I think I can speak for the entire Oregon delegation that we're going to keep fighting for the federal government to honor this obligation.
Prognosis?
The prognosis isn't good for us to even be able to keep the jail open till time we're paying off.
We're minimally able to keep it open now.
Yeah. I was asking the prognosis. Prognosis is going to be a very intense fight year after year.
Well,
yeah.
We don't expect that he's going to say, oh, everything's going to be rosy. It's not going to be rosy. They'll always have to fight to get the Congress to pay anything at all on their contract. Mike?
But he didn't say it's coming to an end. He didn't say it's over. We've issued the last of the SRS payments. He didn't say that. He said that it's going to be a fight year after year, just as it has been year after year whenever they do come up with this. I don't think anything comes out of Congress without a battle as to, you know, who's getting what and how much.
That's quite right. That's quite right. And so we should always expect that. So the question that we've been mentioning over the last couple of days is the following. Do you really believe that congressmen, senators, representatives from all over the country are going to agree to let half of a state, even Florida, go out of business, completely belly up?
What is your dislike for Florida?
I think you know.
Were you traumatized somehow in
we
Florida or
all
something?
were, weren't we? Okay, so
I don't know. I don't know what
Court weighed in on that one as well.
Are you?
Yeah.
Are you still whining about the 2000 election?
There are a lot of people who feel sore about the fact that didn't look quite right, okay? And his brother was the governor of the state, okay? So there were some questions about what end was up, and the Supreme Court decided that election for us. Okay, well, that's what I want every day of the week. The Supreme Court
okay, well, there could be some endless debate about whether legitimately that there was a win there, or whether the Supreme Court made the decision. I think there's actually some definitive data on that you should probably look into, so you can remove whatever trauma you've had from that out of your mind.
It's a national nightmare. Anyway, Congress, you really think now that Congress wants to take the hit of letting any state, half of a state, go completely out of business because Congress refuses to pay their bills?
Well, you know what? I mean, listen, they don't have to pay our bills.
No.
You know, they put us in the condition where they have to pay our bills without some sort of a quid pro quo. Now, before, what we had was we let them manage the harvest of the trees, and then they split the proceeds with us. And you know, someone might call that an equitable solution. But now, when they pay us money, that's a net loser for the United States government to send us this money, because they're not producing anything for it. So I understand why this is a big battle. There wouldn't be any battle. It would just be, hey, listen, you cut this much timber, you sold this much timber, you owe us 50% of that. Yep. I mean, that's a case closed deal. So you don't have to have this problem every year. You can have this. I mean, you would never ever have to discuss this again in the Congress or the Senate if you would just let us go back to cutting some timber and hold to the confines of the O&C Act and you know, forget about the Northwest Forest Plan and all these other limiting factors. You know, listen. I understand people are concerned about the environment and all of that, and I'm totally on board. People should be concerned about the environment. But however, the people that say that you cannot touch anything have completely 100% won. We don't get to do anything. And right now, this mineral withdrawal that they're considering is 100% withdraw, and that doesn't mean you go in and withdraw 100% of the minerals. That means 100% you don't withdraw any minerals. You withdraw from withdrawing minerals. And
nice explanation, Mike.
Yes, thank you very much. And so you, in other words, leave it in the ground.
Yes,
they even say that. They even say leave it in the ground. It's so bizarre. No use of natural resources whatsoever. And they call that a good solution somehow. And so now, instead of a self-sustaining economy, we're supposed to flip over to this now taxpayer-supported economy. In other words, all of the money that used to come to the economy from timber now has to come out of the taxpayer pocket. You used to have money coming from timber into people's pockets. Now you have money just coming out of people's pockets. So so I understand why this is a problem for them, because they have to reach into their own pocket because they're the one who created this, you know, and so
but
because
they
don't trust.
They lack the political will to do either one. They could say, this is a ridiculous plan, we're not going to do it that way. Or they could say, we're going to cut you completely off, we're not going to do it that way. But they don't have the political willpower to do either one of those things. So they're going to, this Congress, they're going to muddle along like they always have. They're going to try to reduce it and kind of cut back a little here and cut back a little there, but they are not going to cut it off completely. Although, yes, that's one of the universe of possibilities. They're not going to do it, because then they would be legitimately charged with putting half of a state, whatever state you like, half of a state completely out of business because they refuse to pay their bills and live up to their contract.
Right. And here's, you know, it's an interesting thing because, you know, they don't have to do this. And it would just, this would be a lot less hassle for them, a lot less of a question mark in their mind if they got solid pushback from any politicians in Southern Oregon or any of these O&C counties. If they started pushing back hard, going, listen, you know, we're on the brink here. We really are on the brink. So why don't you start living up to your obligation? If they got more of that kind of pushback, I mean, Why do you think they give Iran everything it wants? Because they're incessant whiners. They say, we want this, we want that, we want to make our bomb, and we want you to pay us. Okay. Well, you have to, take a cue from that negotiation. Be a problem to these people. If you're not going to be a problem to them, they are going to cut you off at some point, and then you're going to be sitting here wondering why you don't have any money left in your pocket. It's because you're paying it all in taxes.
Okay, let's study the opposition to many of the things that we believe in. Let's study what the Chinese would do and have done. Let's study what some of the unions would do and have done. Okay?
Absolutely.
All these counties together, the lesson that we should learn is the following. When you don't get what you want, the way to get their attention, it's very similar to what's happened up a little further north. They did a lot of actions and people started paying attention. Maybe the local people there are right in Harney County that, oh, well, this is too much, but they did get their attention, didn't they? Okay. So in order to get the attention, here's what we could do. What China would do is it'd say, oh, well, we're just going to put 1,000% tariff on any goods you try to sell here. Why? That's unfair. Yeah, well, okay, but now we've got your attention. What we could do as counties is we would say, take a page out of the Book of Unions. Every county works together. We lack the political will, so it's not going to happen. We go on strike. The whole county says, we're not going to do anything.
Yeah, I don't even think you have to do that. All I think you have to do is start whining like a little child, okay? Because this clearly works. What do you think? I mean, the environmentalists that came in and shut this area down back in the late 80s, early 90s, what did they do? That's exactly what they did. And they had organizations on their side paying money on their behalf to push court cases through. We need some benefactors like that would help us out on our side. We're not asking to rape the wilderness here. All we want to do is responsibly harvest, as the ONC Act calls for, at a sustainable harvest. And and get 50% of the proceeds. I don't think this is too much to ask. Listen, there have been irresponsible practices in the past.
Absolutely.
So
yes, that's true.
So you go forward and you keep an eye on those things, but you cannot shut down the industry. Listen, timber has the greatest opportunity to rescue the economy here than anything does. And but that won't ever happen unless people have the political will, as Dale said, to push back a little bit. And
it's going to take real action. I'm coming to the conclusion, and some of you may agree, that the idea that, well, if we're just nicer to them and we just cooperate with them and we just kind of collaborate with them and do what they like and show them the error of their ways, well, eventually they'll come around. Then there comes a point where you got to go, you know what? This is escalated from a chess match to a boxing match.
Mm-hmm.
Punk. Yeah, now you have their attention.
Yeah, you just listen. You have to make some noise. I mean, the squeaky wheel gets the grease. Everybody knows that this is true. If there's one child who's crying, you go and find out why that child is crying and try to alleviate this situation so the child stops crying. Now, it's about time we started making some noise here. If you want some action on this front, you're going to have to be a pain in their backside.
Yep.
And you're going to have to do
not
things.
Want justice. They want quiet.
That's right. And so you make these people want quiet from you. If you're not doing that, you're losing. And they're ultimately going to shut off the tap. And then you're going to be going, see, those guys did this horrible injustice to us. Well, you let them do it.
Okay, so back to the point with the local politicians where we can do even more.
Right.
They are telling you SRS is over. They made that abundantly clear. Both Simon and Cheryl said SRS is over. It's over. Simon even gave us a date on which it's over, right? It's over. It's already over. As everybody knows, which you just heard Cheryl say, everybody knows SRS is over. Then you hear the senator say, well, it's a fight, but he didn't say SRS is over. It's going to be a year after year fight. Now, what the heck are they going to do? They're faced with the same kind of thing that Keith Heck was. Now you see the logic of the order of the things here. Keith Heck was saying, oh, well, here's a definitive statement, and now he wants to get off of that, right? And now he has to explain why he doesn't want to. Well, I sometimes will. Now, Cheryl and Simon are both saying absolutely, positively, completely over. You must vote for a levy. Does this now tell you what Simon thinks about voting for a levy? It's over. It's definitely over. Now, here's what they said at today's meeting about that, and watch them backpedal. Mike?
I just received an email from Rocky. There is no update. Still pending on the Secure Rural Schools payment. Looking for it at the end of January. David Bergendorf, Senior Program Specialist, Secure Rural Schools.
How much is that check? Is it two?
No, it should be closer to 4 or 5.
Closer to 4 or 5.
So very similar to what we got last year, although we won't know until we actually get it.
Can we actually get it?
There's
Sequestration and all that, yeah.
Some other elements. I understood that it was at the same rate. It wasn't going to be a 5% reduction like they typically do, but I don't know about that.
Yeah.
It really is hard to tell. So,
What about any any proposed legislation that encompasses that? I know you were talking about it. They wanted it linked up, and Senator Murphy said the same thing, that they want it linked up with reform.
Right.
And some people interpret that to mean that they're working on it, and I'm going, well, it may not be Secure Rural Schools, and it may not be in the same form, but they're trying to work on something for reform of the forestry, because now that the PILT payments are separated out there on their own, that's another issue that could end any year. It's a 1 year. So they're trying to get it all
renewed for.
Pardon?
PILT has actually been renewed.
Yes, it has.
For 5 years, maybe 100%. It's pretty solid.
Yeah.
And as our Secure Rural Schools payment,
but it's not connected to anything else.
PILT will go up. So what's really weird about that is you're pitting kind of east side counties against west side counties, because they appropriate a certain amount of money and then it's equalized out.
So the PILT payment doesn't.
It isn't 1 for 1.
It's not a fixed formula. It's based on the harvest, right? It's a formula on the harvest.
The lieu of taxes is based on the acres that would have been harvested in your county, and it's not. Secure Rural Schools is subject to the legislation. The share of receipts on BLM is subject to how much. And that's technically what we're on. And it isn't how much harvest. So people say, well, we're not harvesting hardly anything down in Medford, district. Well, that doesn't matter, because they're harvesting a lot up in the people. Unfortunately,
so it's shared. It's shared all over.
It's shared all over. It's based on the number of acres that were ONC acres back in 1919. 346,000 acres is what Joseph County has.
Right.
Now, when I'm watching this, I'm thinking, boy, that Simon here sure knows a lot of stuff. Yeah, he does. But there's a problem. There's two problems. One is he's on the wrong side. And two, for a guy who knows so much stuff, didn't he just say that SRS is over? And now they're talking about how SRS is not over. Yes, he knows a lot of stuff. But because he knows a lot of stuff, then that doesn't give him any excuse for saying something wrong, completely wrong about SRS, now does it?
Yeah, I've heard Simon sound perfectly intelligent on both sides of an issue inside of 2 minutes. So listen, that's just his style. I've discounted a long time ago that Simon sounds intelligent. He's not necessarily smart.
Okay, I'll buy that. And this fits perfectly in with when they say, okay, they've been found guilty by the Oregon Government Ethics Commission, but they can probably cite you chapter and verse about what the laws are, what they can do and what they can't do. So it's not that they don't know. See, this is the motto of this group. I know we're breaking the law and I don't care. Simon knows. He can tell you down to each individual tree what it is that we have and the SRS payments. So that when he tells you SRS is definitely over and not coming back and it's done, and then the senator comes in and says, well, there's a continuing fight year after year, what does that mean? Who's lying to you? They both know what they're talking
and
about.
I don't know. Yeah, right. Theoretically speaking. And it may well be that, that there's scuttlebutt behind the scenes is about shutting down, SRS payments. I'm
There
sure
is
that it
all the
is.
time, of course, of course. But that doesn't mean it's
Yeah.
already shut down, and that's what Simon said. Already shut down.
Well,
Cheryl says, as everybody knows.
They're not receiving any pushback from us, and part of the reason for that is that they accept federal superiority here. That's what it is. You take what your overlords give you, and you're happy about it, and you're angry at your constituents for not paying their fair share. And, in reality, what they should be doing is complaining that the federal government isn't paying their fair share because there's a promise. O&C payments are not welfare. This is a deal. They're supposed to pay 50%. Number one, they're mandated to, sustainably harvest. And then they're also mandated to give us 50% of the proceeds. And they're not doing either of those things. And we're not pushing back. So what do you expect that the result is going to be behind that?
Well, we often repeat things on this show. We know that, okay? But then sometimes people forget certain basic rules. And one of the basic things we need to remember is the conversation that Don Reedy had with this senator. When the senator came in to met at Cave Junction, many of you have heard this, but sometimes people forget this. The senator came in and Don Reedy took him to task. Stop telling us how we're going to continue getting SRS payments because they're trying to pass a levy. Stop telling us this good news. Don't do this thing that's over my shoulder. Don't do this. We need the doom and gloom. We need the emergency situation. We need the, or we're not going to pass a levy. And that's what they did on these previous clips. They're lying to us. They know that they are. They know they are. This is what they're admitting here. They understand this. And Cheryl's completing Simon's sentences. So they know the SRS is not over. Yes, it's a hard fight. Well, what do you expect? But they know it's not over, but they're telling us, they just told us that it's over. And so you must vote for this levy. Don't be deceived by this. Tell your neighbors that these characters are lying to us. Well, we've got a brand new plan. You don't even believe that. Nobody believes that it's a brand new plan. It's the same old shell game from before. That's all. Okay, so we're going to roll back a couple of days and let Cheryl try to explain what it is that these new plans are, and we'll talk about them getting Wally Hicks involved with this whole thing about maybe what we need to do is put an advisory question on the ballot so that people will realize that there's this looming danger, because obviously it's not enough. We need a looming danger of the governor coming in here and taking over everything. Go ahead.
So, and a point of clarification, this is continuing on Monday night's video, right?
That's correct, sir.
Okay, there we go.
It's not fair.
That you do it on a rotating basis, and when you have a very limited staff, that rotating basis can't handle all the growth that's out there. You're constantly working, but you're getting further behind. It's the
already
forward, 2 steps
more
back.
behind her you get.
Yeah.
Now, the question was on the ballot proposal. What I'm hearing is that we are supportive of continuing to investigate the development of a prospective
I
question.
don't think the answer is no. I did lay out last year, the scenario of how I see this going to a ballot and impacting things other than just a yes or no question. And I don't think that that's naive. I think that's legitimate. The way I've seen elections go, and maybe I'm wrong, but it does put an interesting twist in an election of commissioners. For good or bad, it just changes things. So, you understand what I'm
It
going
changes
at?
things.
It does.
Mm-hmm.
You understand what he's trying to say without saying it?
But at this juncture, I look at is the viability of Josephine County and therefore the welfare of the citizens of Josephine County more important than my consideration of an election. my thought.
Well, sure.
I can't speak for anybody else.
Well,
I look at that because the whole reason I ran for this job is for the betterment of Josephine County. I didn't need the job. I didn't, you know, I mean, I was retired. I've had my career. I did this because I wanted to do it for my county. So, and I know you're up for election as well. But to me, when I look at this, it's kind of like, you know, raising my own children. It's like, okay, I know this isn't going to be good for me, but it's the best thing for my kids. You know, and it's
We're
it's
the
like
children once again.
the welfare of the county. Am I going to sit here and let the jail go away, the health go away, turn this over to the state? That's not acceptable to me, to turn it over to the state. That's
And
that's
it's
my
not a
opinion.
decision we should be allowed to just make.
And I think by saying, well, I'm not going to do anything, I'm not going to put this out there because levies always fail. Well, yeah, the levies we put out there have failed, but we've never put anything out there like this. Maybe it'll fail.
Well, to me, that's the
It's
biggest.
a choice we need to give them.
That's the biggest draw for trying to do something different, to be done in a different way. And I think the itemized, you have to be assured that whatever that 64 cents for patrols is actually going to go to patrols, or it's going to be punished by taking 64 cents away, you know, that kind of stuff.
Right. Yeah. Legitimate question there, Keith. Wow. Boy, there was a bunch of stuff in there.
Yes.
Yeah, Cheryl, you know, what a humanitarian. I'm so happy that we have somebody who's as selfless as Cheryl Walker in there
and
for
watching
us.
over us children who just
fantastic.
can't seem to make the right decisions.
Yes.
So she's going to have to make it for us. And if
Yes,
she
we're
can't make
just
it for us,
stupid.
then the state will make it for us. Because we're children. We don't know what we
Right.
want. As Herman Bertschigger says, there's no consensus. Where's the consensus? What? And once we find a consensus, let's put a price tag on it.
Yeah, and boy, there was one little snippet that Simon was saying in there, and I can't even really remember what it was. I know it kind of stuck with me a second there.
You can play it back again if you like, if you want to roll back just a little bit.
Yeah, boy. Yeah,
People
let me
will
see.
be patient with us, won't you? Thank you very much for being patient with us.
Let's see if I can see where his mouth is moving.
Except for some people out in IV who feel that none of these videos should ever be shown. And they would not have to look at them. All they have to do is press one button and they wouldn't be looking at them. But that's not good enough. You see, they don't want anybody to look at them. So they want them to be completely banned for anybody being able to see. These are the commissioners talking. And I'm not even talking about our show. They don't even want the videos of the commissioners being shown because they don't want other people to see them. What country did they grow up in? Mike, are you ready, bud?
To investigate the development of a prospective
I
question.
don't think the answer is no. I did lay out last year, the scenario of how I see this going to a ballot and impacting things other than just a yes or no question. And I don't think that that's naive. I think that's legitimate. The way I've seen elections go, and maybe I'm wrong, but it does put an interesting twist in an election of commissioners. For good or bad, it just changes things. So, you understand what I'm
It
going
changes
at?
things.
It does.
Mm-hmm. It does.
It puts a twist in that.
But at this juncture, I look at, is the viability of Josephine County and therefore the welfare of the citizens of Josephine County more important than my consideration of an election?
Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, he says, you understand what I'm telling you? He said it more clearly in a previous meeting.
Yeah, what he means there is you know how hard it's going to be to get elected anyway for us, and to throw on top of that, pushing another unpopular levy, and both of those things, you're going to vote for them all at the same time. People are going to make a point of, I'm voting no on the levy, all four of them. And I'm going to vote no on the people who brought us the levy, all three.
Yes. Now the couriers and that earlier meeting, they sit in exactly the same meeting that we were sitting in, all of us. And their interpretation of what Simon said is he said something like, the good candidates would maybe not make it because of this thing about the levy. Maybe the good candidates wouldn't make it. So the Courier writes it up as, well, maybe some of the other people out in the community. That's not what he was talking about. What's the matter with you? These two guys are the good candidates who might not make it. And he's trying to, what you can't see it in the context. He's talking about these guys. He thinks they're the good candidates. And they may not make it if they put that on there. But Cheryl's not having any of it because she feels that this is somehow going to be 2/3 of a hat trick in hockey, that she's going to get two things. She's not gotten anything at all, nothing. Her claim to fame is 80% defeat, same as the city council. But she's sure this time, because it's so different, as Keith Heck said, well, I'm against this. Well, apparently not, Keith, because you just said, okay, I see the logic behind this. That's not saying no, Keith. I see the logic behind this is not saying no. Hello? You're watching the show, right? Hello, Keith. Okay, so she thinks that she's going to get both the levy and reelected. Really?
Or maybe she doesn't care about the about being reelected. She just wants to do the very best thing that she possibly can do for her county
and her children.
She loves it.
Yes, that's what it is. Yes. Next.
In T-minus a year and a half, it will not be there.
There will be nothing there.
Yeah.
There will be nothing there.
That's you might not think that it's that great of what you're doing right now, but try to imagine what it's like to not have a jail.
Right.
And only a handful of people from this community will be incarcerated in some other facility, costing us technically more money per person.
Sure.
For oversight because of transportation.
But that's the boogeyman argument. That's just trying to scare us better, Commissioner Harris. Trying to scare us. And that's that's the difficulty.
It's very simple.
And that is an easy excuse for people to make. Sure. We're trying to scare them.
Yeah.
But when you look at the reality of what's going to happen, I would much rather that they question whether they're going to be scared or whether they're actually going to be without the service.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're even making fun of us, not just us, but you. Well, that's an easy argument for someone to make. Why? Oh, yeah, so they just think that we're trying to scare them. Obviously, they are just trying to scare us because he just said in 18 months there won't be any SRS. Oh, yes, as everybody knows, there won't be any SRS. Yes, we won't have any jail. We won't have any jail. We're looking at some of this old footage that we have. And every other year they're saying, well, there's not going to be any jail. There's certainly not going to be. Well, I guess that's the end of the jail. Well, we'll just have to let everybody out because there won't be any patrols. There won't be any jail. I guess we might as well just pack it in.
Yeah, it's something that they trot out every year. And it's like, listen, I could see that people could look at us and go, there's those guys. They're saying that those people are being fearmongers and that's irresponsible. Maybe it would be irresponsible if it weren't true, because as Dale just said, every single time they trot this thing out and every single time it's a straw man. What are we supposed to do with that?
It is.
I'm just calling them as we see them here.
Do people have, the people who say that, do they have any memory of what was said before? If they can't remember what the commissioners say, could they remember what SOS said or Cuff said? They always say, well, I guess we won't have any jail. Well, I guess you just won't have any jail. I'm not trying to cause fear for you, but I guess there won't be any jail and people will be running wild in the street. And, well, I guess that's what you're going to get. So that's what you wanted.
I've got a question for the commissioners. For all the effort that you've put into trying to get a levy passed, in the time that you've been around or the time that you even recall before you became a commissioner, for all the effort that you've seen put toward that, how much effort have any commissioner put towards confronting government and saying, why aren't you living up to your obligation? Have there been one letter? Have there been, listen, there isn't anything to stop you from getting in front of a TV camera or a video camera like this, for crying out loud. You could stand in front of a camera, put it up on YouTube and wag your finger at Washington, D.C. and send it to a bunch of senators and congressmen there and let them know that there's one guy who's making some noise. No, none of you people have done anything like that. You just have accepted defeat, that whatever they dictate to you, that's what you have to eat. And that is the biggest crock there is.
I have not offered this to Cheryl Walker. I'm honest. I've offered to both of these guys to get in front of our camera and do exactly that. And the other side of this equation is, if you're going to represent the people, 1998, 2000, 2004, 2007, twice in 2008, 2012, 2013, 2014, 2015. How many times, and now 2016, do your constituents need to tell you this is not what we want? Well, but that's what I want. No, this is not what we want. Will you ever listen? Because they're not listening, we need to say goodbye to all three of these people.
Right.
They're not listening.
I've got, yeah, I have an idea. How about putting an advisory question on the ballot that asks, how would you like us to fight back and be very, very vocal towards the federal government to make them meet their obligations to this county?
They'll never do that.
You know why they won't? Yeah, you know why? Because it would probably be an 80-20% deal. That's why. And they don't want to have to follow through.
And the other thing, remember, because you know we've looked into this, citizens cannot put an advisory question on the ballot. What's up with that? I tell you what I would do, even if the law says citizens can't do it. By gosh, if the citizens got together 1,000 signatures and said, as commissioners, we'd put it on the ballot in response to the citizens. Well, the state law says you can't. Yeah, but a state law doesn't say that you can't listen to what the people say, except you don't want to listen to what the people say. So you bring in the 1,000 signatures, we'll put the dang thing on the ballot, and we'll do it as county commissioners. And then people will get a chance to say what they want to say. And one of them I'm looking forward to, the comedy one of them all, how would you like to have, it's just an advisory question, it doesn't have the force of law. How would you like to have choices say none of the above? I love that question. Don't you, Mike?
Yes. Yes. You know, we can't put an advisory question on the ballot, but we can issue a survey as we have done before.
Yes, we can.
And that would be a very interesting thing to see. Hey, maybe I'm dead wrong, and maybe everybody is just primed for a levy this time.
No.
But
for the first time since the year 2000 and before? I don't think so.
Hey, Dale, there's a first time for everything now.
Yeah. Right.
But
this is so completely
different. I think it would be interesting to see how people would respond to a question like that.
Let's do that.
All right.
Okay.
Consider it done.
Consider it done. Okay. We will do that. We'll put a question out to you, and we'll tell you how you can vote on it. And it will not be a fake like it is in the Courier. It'll be a real survey, and you'll only get a chance to vote once, because anything else is just for entertainment purposes only. And that's not what we're going to do. What they're trying to do here is they're trying to scare you into things. They even know what they're doing. They laugh at us. Well, the people say it's just fear mongering. It is that. It definitely is, because you've just lied to us. We've seen you say it. Well, just because I say I'm not going to do it doesn't mean I'm not going to do it. We're watching you. And we're doing the one thing they cannot tolerate. We're holding them accountable. It's just based on what they've said. Not trying to get them to do what Mike Jones and Dale Matthews say that they should do. Trying to get them to do what they've said they're going to do. Trying to comparing the two clips. It's the easiest and funniest part of the whole show. It always has been. Having them argue against themselves. Want to play a little bit more of that tape, or you want to sum it up, Mike?
Sum it up, baby.
Okay. So Mike wants to sum it up. Let's all just sit back and listen.
Yes, I will sum it up by saying, yes, it was an awesome program, and even though I didn't think I would have any passion for any of the topics discussed in these videos, I found some anyway.
Yes, he did.
It was the show was good because of that.
Because of Mike. That's
yes,
right.
I'm very modest. I'm working on it.
Yes. So I personally invite you, Mike invites you to help replace, because we know where the skeletons are buried, and we know what they're doing, the perfidy of what they do, and we know that they're lying to us, and we've seen them when they say one thing and do another. We really must, it really is, it's a challenge to both of us because it's easier. Although there are a lot of consequences for this. Some people just hate me, and they're now starting to call Mike names too. That's nice. But it's easier to point out what's
not.
Oh, Oompa Loompa? That's nice.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah, that's true. Somebody did call me Oompa Loompa, which go figure.
Yeah.
I don't understand that.
Oh, and somebody the other day said that it was Diane Mackin. She says that I'm well known for being, what was it, dishonest? No, I'm not at all interested in the facts. It was something like that. I'll get the exact quote for you. It was delicious. So I'm dedicated to misguiding people and not telling anybody the truth and all this kind of stuff. Well, it's from Diane Mackin. So anyway, what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to come up with solutions, positive solutions. You've heard some of them this evening. Powerful solutions, ways to put more power into your hands, which is obviously what they don't want, and to replace that doom and gloom. These are the doom and gloom merchants. It's not us. The city council, well, you're bomb throwers. We're not the bomb throwers. You're the ones that offered to put the businesses out of business. And
we're not Oompa Loompas either.
Oh, that's real good.
You know.
Oh, boy, you bring a tear to my eye. So what we're going to try to do is that's funny, Mike. What we're going to try to do is replace that doom and gloom with some positive solutions. Well, you're not working together. You're not on the team. No, we're not on your team. No, we're not on your team. We're on our own team. It's really grassroots. We do intend to come up with solutions. And our first positive step is to get rid of the three of you.
Yeah.
That's all that we need to say tonight. Thank you.